Hello and welcome to a long-delayed episode 54 of this series where I am programming an NES game live on Twitch from scratch on this very balmy and hot Thursday evening. So I apologize for the long delay in getting back to doing the streaming, but I've been traveling for work and been a little bit busy, so wasn't able to do much streaming like I wanted. I did work on some things, as I mentioned, that I might while I was gone, but it was all asset tool stuff, and it was all kind of back end stuff. So we'll talk about that and then figure out where we are with all of this. So let's dive right in. So one of the things I did with the code, I did make it available to myself on GitHub for the asset tool. I know a number of people have been, or I shouldn't say a number, a few people have asked if the code would be available anywhere for the asset tool in the game. I haven't made the code available, as I mentioned in one of the comments on one of the recordings. I'm not 100% comfortable yet with making the code just freely available. So I'm trying to think of what makes sense in terms of putting this stuff out there. I know people want to see, especially the NES code, to look at what is being done and why. And I know that some people want to see the asset tool for the same reason. But you know, I am planning on releasing the game at some point, and so don't necessarily want all the source code out there. I mean, I know it doesn't necessarily include the assets, but still, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Either in the chat or the YouTube comments or on Twitter, what you think would work well for you. I know Handmade Hero, he basically kind of made it that you're buying the game up front and then you get access to the source code every day that he works on it. I don't know if that's a system that people would want. I'm not sure that I necessarily want to do it that way. I'm not sure that people want to necessarily pay the money to get access to the source, but who knows? Yeah, let me know. I'm also actively trying to figure out what I'm going to do for my artwork situation, because I, as you have noticed, I'm sure, am kind of doing all the artwork myself, so the content is not great. But you know, it's suitable for testing purposes. We need to obviously get some real artwork in there. I reached out to an artist who may or may not be able to work with me on this. We'll see. And I want to go over the changes I made for the asset tool and kind of highlight where we are with the game, kind of getting things back into the forefront of everybody's memory, and kind of see what we need to work on. I burned about 30 minutes today getting the asset tool back up and running because for whatever reason Visual Studio running on my desktop here didn't like that a buffer I had allocated on the stack was so large, and was causing the asset tool to crash when I launched it. So that was annoying and a waste of time. But let's go into this. So I haven't tested all of these changes for the asset tool, so let's look through them and see what I actually did and talk about why, and then we can and then we can see how that goes. So many of you will recall that in the asset tool we were using functions for writing out to files, and I was using obviously the Windows calls to do that because we were running this on Windows, but I would like this tool to eventually work on other platforms, which is why we're using Tiger for the graphics. And so what I wanted to do was abstract the file functionality to be not using the Windows calls directly, because even though Microsoft used to support essentially the Unix file system calls, they are now substantially different enough, at least from my recollection, that they will not work if I try to compile this on Linux or macOS. So what I had done was, we have this structure here called system hooks. System hooks is a structure that defines a bunch of pointers essentially to functions or other structures. And so what I did was I implemented definitions of sort of basic file I/O functionality, and then implemented the Win32 operations here. So things like opening the file, opening a binary file, creating a binary file, creating a text file, you know, all the same stuff we were doing before, but done in a way where we're wrapping the Windows calls and ever so slightly different from how the Windows calls operate, but hopefully in a portable way. And I mean, I guess you could argue, well, the C++ file I/O classes handle some of this stuff, but sure, they do. There's also a ton of other stuff they do that's unnecessary overhead, and it's quite messy to use, and I don't particularly like them. I actually prefer the C# file I/O routines a lot better. You know, I'm just perfectly happy with these sort of Unix style open and fopen commands for or functions for doing file I/O. So I just wrap these here, and they're in the not in this, where is it? In the asset tool hooks definition here. So in theory, I mean, I'm sure it's not going to work exactly right. I can implement, you know, a macOS or Linux .cpp file that defines these functions, and when we call initialize platform initialize, it will set up the system hooks for that OS properly, and then we will be able to operate the same way on that platform as we do on Windows. And I say, at least in theory, because I'm sure I've messed some things up here, but that's okay. It'll be close enough, and you can always go back and fix it after the fact. So right now where we're at is, it should in theory all be working. I have some of this functionality, so I should be able to create a new meta tile from that, and it wrote it out correctly. The only problem, of course, is this problem where we know that the this color is the background color, which means it's going to be transparent, so we have to flip that and then save the meta tile, and then if we go back, it should have saved that, so we're good there. Green meta tile is loading. So all this stuff is loading correctly. The map, let's see, need more tokens, huh? So I wonder if, need more tokens. So that that was because we were trying to parse the file. Let's see, how far off are we from the number of tokens we need? 0. Let's take a look at the code. Oh, there's no code. Alright, so the read all functionality isn't working. Like I said, I hadn't really tested this. I just tested the basic functionality, so it was entirely possible that this was not working. So we have our JavaScript file handle here, and let's go into read all and see what it does. So it's going to take the handle, and it's going to do an fseek to the, or sorry, an lseek to the end. Max size bytes 0. So it's saying okay. So basically what we're doing is we're calling read all to get the size of the file in bytes, and we're going to return false. So now the length is that. We're going to add 1 to it. We're going to allocate the length that we need, and we're going to mem set it so that it's now an empty string. Oh. Interesting. It, yeah. So I'm doing the read here, but I guess I want to do, oh, you know what? All right. So that's the problem here. We got to reseek back to the beginning of the file. All right. Probably want to do that immediately after we get the file size. Basically, we just want to get the file size to validate the buffer that we're passing has the appropriate size. In this case, we're getting the buffer size so that we can allocate a buffer that's of appropriate length. And then we're going to read it in. I really should just be doing read all. JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. And then this is just JS code length. All right, so hopefully that fixes that problem. What's the deal? Oh, it's, yeah. So let's take a look. All right, now we've got our code. We're going to close the file. We get our number of tokens, and that should be good now. And let's see. So if we scroll, yeah, okay. So that is our map now. That's good. Let me open up tiled so we can compare. Yep. So that's looking, that is looking like what I expected and what I see in tiled, so that's good. So really the only thing to do at this point is we can try to do an export of the project and just kind of do a quick comparison of the files that get generated. Oh, let's debug. What's the problem? Sprite, right text line. Fprintf handle. Oh, the handle's null. Why is the handle null? Create text file apparently didn't work. Let's see why that is. So So we're opening a text file with options, and the option is right. The file handle is null. Oh, that's a pointer to a file handle pointer. Is that? Oh no, it isn't a double. Okay, so that should be fine. But it's still not. Okay. File handles null. Set it to null. Set that to null. Temp file. Oh, I know what the problem is. It's pretty obvious. Doesn't work if you do not set the file handle, it's not going to return the file handle. Kind of obvious. All right, so now we have file handles properly. And now the right worked. All right, so let's let this run its way through. Okay. So this wasn't quite the refactoring I was hoping to do while I was gone, but it's at least partially useful because, again, it's going to help us in our quest for cross-platform functionality there. All right, let's see if this code looks similar. That all looks the same to me, which is exciting. So let's kind of take what we've got here. Why? That's interesting. Why didn't these get regenerated? Let me see something here. If I delete this file, is it just a timestamp thing? No. All right, so let's see. Load meta tile, write the collision information. Export CHR. Let's see what's going on with export CHR. So export the project. So we have a file here. What is the file name? Gradient.chr. So this is the old one. And then we're writing our bytes to it. And the write is failing, so why is the write failing? Even though that file handle looks good, I guess it's, oh, you know what, probably? Because we want to do create file. Although that shouldn't have created the problem that it did. Still wonder if there's supposed to be so that would be what we would need for open, because we would want it to append to the file, not create. All right, so let's try that again. There we go. So that didn't, that actually returned. So I was looking at the right return here, and that is the number of bytes that were supposed to be written. And it's at 8, which is fine. So let's look back here now. And okay, so now we've got our files that were missing before, so that's good. And why were the palette files not being updated? Probably for the same reason. This should be, let's see, load sprite, that's okay. Save sprite. I'm going to create file here. Let's see, this is create sprite. Save sprite and create sprite. I don't know why. Oh, because it initializes this structure. Okay. So that's good. And then what is this load map? That should be open. This should be create. So these are all just a case of me using the wrong operation. Instead of opening, I want create. The difference being that create will open and truncate, and yeah, create opens and truncates, and open just simply opens and appends. All right, so let's close the asset tool again. All right, so and hopefully the chat is actually working, and it's just nobody has said anything, and not that it's not working because the dashboard on my phone is not working properly in terms of the session, the views and stuff, even though it says the chat room is connected. So we will see. I apologize if you've been asking anything and I did not respond. All right, so now we are back in business here. All of these files actually got updated. All right, so let's go back to this. And rebuild the project, and then rerun it. All right, so the player sprite is messed up, but actually it looks like all the sprites are messed up. Why are all the sprites messed up? They are shifted. Okay. Let's look at why that would be. So, shooter char .inc is our char ROM include, and then we have the shooter, generic one, the meta tile, and the entity includes. And we have our, oh wait, these are the palettes. That's not what I wanted to bring in. This one, gradient blue, green bumper, asset filler. Shouldn't that be first? Also, where are the, those are the entity ones. Bullet explode, flyby player. It seems to me that this should be up here. Let's just see if doing that fixes the problem. Nope. Well, actually, it's not. That's weird. Weird. Is it the asset filler is too big? Oh, that's hard-coded to the, okay, so it's not that. Create file, right, close. Okay. I mean, the backgrounds are all good. It's just the sprites are shifted. I wonder why that is. Sprite viewer. So the sprite positioning is right, but the tile 0. Why is that shifted? Add a tile char. Gradient blue, green bumper, acid filler. I mean, all the background stuff is totally fine. It's my sprites, my entities are offset by some value. I mean, it looks, is it the whole bank they're offset by? But why would that have changed? All the same size. Bullet, bumper. Well, are they all the same size? That's 16 bytes. That's 256 bytes. Where's explode? It's 512 bytes. Why are my banks off? I feel like that's all it is, but that's still strange that that only happened now. Is it something like Asset filler. How big is that? That's 2672. That is current background tiles less than 255. 255 minus current background tile times 16. I'm wondering if I just... Oh, and you can see that I didn't finish fully converting this because it's still using fprintf in some places, which won't matter. It's under the covers doing the same thing, but it shouldn't be doing that anymore. So the reason that this asset filler is here is to fill in between the background and the sprite charom. If I change the size, I assume that that's gonna shift everything, but of course it shouldn't actually do anything, or it shouldn't be doing that. It shouldn't need to be changed. So what did I say this was? This is 2672, and the other one is... Wait, it's the same size. Oh, wait. I'm still a little jet lagged here, so I made this change and then I didn't actually rebuild the asset tool to regenerate the file. What's the problem? Buffer size, access violation, filler buffer, 0 buffer size, minus, oh. Really? Okay. Well, what is the actual size that it's using? Or are we out of 88? $26.88. So if I just make this, just for argument's sake, 1024. Oh, why? Whoa, why is this being called a second time? It's bizarre. Okay. A third time? Something stuck on... That is odd. All right. 1, 2, 3. Why is it being called 3 times? Let's export. So it's going through, is it a JSON file, load the map, and then it's dealing with the map here, and then we go through and we look at meta tiles, and we go through the max meta tile list here, and that, is that in a loop? I mean, technically it is, but why is it loading the map that many times? That is a little odd. I assume that's what it's doing, but let's see. Oh no, it has nothing to do with that. It is after it's done with the map. Loops through the item count, checks for... Oh. Well, I guess it shouldn't need to do that every time it loops through the map, because these are... Oh, okay. These are the map meta tiles. I'm still confused by why I did this. Which is no good. Why? Yeah, why did I do this? Max meta tiles. Loop through. And then... I can only assume that this is as a result of kind of doing this in bits and pieces. What's happened is... Yeah, so it's actually exporting... That's a little weird. Okay, so it's exporting this stuff multiple times for reasons, but it's depending on the fact that a map was actually located in the list. Let's see here. Which I guess technically it would be okay. Sort of. It's checking some of this stuff, but just kind of not. It should just be in here. So after it's done with the map itself, it should then handle the meta tiles and just do it that one time. Although I guess well, that's the right way to do it for now. And then outside of that loop, it's then gonna look at the entities and generate those, which is fine. It's just a little strange that it's doing it's doing this. So asset filler, 2688. Rebuild that, and then reload it in Messin. It's still got the wrong. I mean, so 2688, if we divide it by 16, it's 168 tiles. I think it was 88, so that's our 256 here. So that's the most tiles we have in there. But then it's not, it's like it's got an extra, what is this, 3F? 64. Yeah, that just seems like it's something wrong with the bank that's been updated. Initially, they're swappable char banks, so that didn't have any noticeable difference. That did. So that made this load that into the bank, which is not what we want. It's just weird that suddenly broke. I gotta refresh my memory on what it is we're actually even doing here. Hold on a second. NestDev MC3. So come on. We are specifying our char banks for the beginning, and then this one too. If I make this, let's say I make this 0. Okay, that makes sense. So now if I make that 1, it's going to be shifted a little bit. Yep. Make that 2. So we shift it even more. Make that 3. Okay, so let's see. So 2 is select 1 KB. I don't know why. Something must have changed in the way that it's being built, and even that is still not right. So let's see if we can figure out what we're looking at here. So right now, this is where it thinks the ship begins, even though it's here, right? Everything is sort of shifted. And I think it should just continue to work this way, but obviously it's not. It's correct, but what's the issue, right? So like what got changed by my brilliant plan to to change the way that this is all working. So word search there. Okay, so let's see. So our entity char, we're going through and we're saying if it's a sprite, then do an ink bin for that. We're doing is sprite, get file name. That's our ink bin, and then separate to that, where are we exporting the sprite char data? This is for the meta tiles. That is that as well. Ink bin entity. Well, sprite image, export char. So this is happening. Oh, okay. Well, oh. What is this? Okay, it's happening further down. If drawing, okay, so draw entities, that's the code that we're generating. And then we're doing sprite to image, export char, free image. This is the image with the height. The problem. I wonder if the problem is no, that should be okay. Right, size bytes. That shouldn't, I mean, that literally shouldn't have changed. Let's look at our code here. Oh, that's the other thing I did. I changed the native types that are used to be more expressive types. So UN32, UN8, again, that's sort of in the effort to make things cross-platform so that they, I don't have to remember how an N64 is defined on one platform versus another. Just use N64 or UN64. So let's see. Okay. Okay, so it uses ocreate and otruncate. And I didn't do that. I just used ocreate. I wonder if that makes a difference. I mean, obviously it does something, but... Oh, wait. Yeah, okay, sorry. I thought I changed the open instead of the create, so... Let's try again. Okay, let's see if anything looks any different. So the file size here is smaller. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that may have been the problem. So let's just copy everything over again. Replace. Get messen to reload and open the PPU viewer. Aha, that was the problem. Except it's still something is off, but it's still better. Let's right, I didn't think of, let me just make sure I'm using the original code, not the modified. Yeah, so all right, so why is that now off? What, it's off by one tile. Make sure that all of the files got updated that we're supposed to. These, oh wait, 22, yeah. So these palette files did not, and these two char files did not. So let's make sure we're getting everything here. Why? Acid tool, what are you doing? Export palette. Oh, create file. Let's try that again. Make sure those files got updated. Should not be seeing any asset files that we actually care about with old timestamps, and I think that took care of that. Okay. Replace and reload. And okay, so all right, what is wrong? It's essentially like the draw entities routine now is draw player sprite is off by one, right? It's off by, it's saying it starts here and using those, and it should be, yeah, why is it off by one? What is this? What is this empty sprite tile? What am I looking for? entity char bullet is the first thing that should be in here, and that's this, but there is an extra 16 re-export it. Still got that extra tile there. And that's fine for here because, oh, wait a minute. So the asset tool does insert an empty tile for meta tile data. Wonder if it somehow got messed up and it's now doing that for the sprite data too. Although, well, how would it do that? Because the whole point is, let's see, bullet.char should be just 16 bytes. It is let me see something in the source tree here. Did I mess up the offset that's getting calculated? And less than 255. Oh, damn it. It's doing open file again. Well, okay, so this is, that should be 255, not 256. That's why it's off by 1. Export. All right, now that should be good. So that's the asset filler that was wrong. And if we rebuild and then reload, and now the bullet is in the first position, and we're back in business. Okay. So that was a lot of work to get us back where we were, but again, trying to get us into a situation where we are kind of close to being cross-platform for the asset tool. And I'm gonna call it now because I'm getting tired, and like I said, because of jet lag, still kind of recovering. I only got back this past weekend and trying to get back into the time zone. I was gone for a week, so anyway, enough excuses. It's just still hard, I still have to figure out kind of where we go next. We've got this stuff working now with the background collisions. We've got the whole world positioning thing is kind of screwed up our movement. So if you remember, we used to be able to move the whole range of the screen, and right now we can move left and right, but that's the only part that's working. The up and down is not. So we've got to work on how to do the appropriate capping of the up and down motion, because we still want to be able to move around the whole screen within the appropriate boundaries. So I have to fix that. We'll probably do that next time. That may mean we look back at how we're doing our calculation of our velocity stuff. We may go back and kind of rework some of that. I'll have to reread the documentation on the signed and unsigned comparisons. And then we probably want to start supporting the ability to have multiple different levels, because right now, essentially the game will only support, it assumes that there's only one level based on the one JSON file, and we don't want that because we need to be able to support multiple different levels. So we'll have to make the asset tool support that properly. And then we should look at how we're going to do enemy placement on the map. So right now we can only place background tiles, meta tiles. We definitely need to be able to place a enemy at a location on the map and have it spawn when you actually fly through that part of the map. We have to figure out what kind of enemies we are going to have, because right now we just have these flyby enemies that just kind of drift by. They are not particularly interesting, but you can have waves of them that come down, maybe a little bit of a have them be a little bit faster. Probably want to do some sort of turret enemies that are stationary. They do not float, they are stationary on the map and fire bullets at the ship. And yeah, we'll have to figure out a boss, some sort of boss, and how we're going to put the boss at the top of the level here, and what kind of weapons it's going to have. Yeah, so there's still quite a bit to do, but I'm kind of done for now. So sorry that this is a shorter stream, but hopefully it's interesting to see what has changed in the asset tool and what broke and what we fixed. As I mentioned before, if you have any ideas about how you would like to get access to the code and the tools, let me know on Twitter or on I'm on the Nintendo Age Discord. You can private message me. You can DM me on Twitter if you want. My email is I believe on the titles here, but you can always also add a comment to the video, the recording on YouTube. And let me know what you think, how you'd like to get access to this stuff. And I will see you Monday, hopefully a little more adjusted to the time zone again, and back into some serious NES programming. Hope you have a good weekend. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.